Welcome to Foundations of Language Lesson 1, Step 3. In this short video, you will learn about the events that led up to the release of the new 2023 Ontario Language Curriculum. On November 9, 2012, the Supreme Court of Canada released a unanimous decision recognizing that learning to read is not a privilege, but a basic and essential human right. The Supreme Court found that Jeffrey Moore, a British Columbia student with dyslexia, had a right to receive the intensive supports and interventions he needed to learn to read. The school board's failure to provide special education programs and services, including intensive intervention, denied Jeffrey Moore meaningful access to education, resulting in discrimination under the British Columbia Human Rights Code. The court said, adequate special education is not a dispensable luxury. For those with severe learning disabilities, it is the ramp that provides access to the statutory commitment to education made to all children. The Moore v. British Columbia decision confirmed that human rights laws in Canada protect the right of all students to an equal opportunity to learn to read. This decision was lauded as a significant victory for students with disabilities, particularly students with reading disabilities. Many hoped it would act as a catalyst for systemic change in Ontario's education system. And it was. In 2019, the OHRC launched its inquiry into human rights issues facing students with reading disabilities in Ontario's public education system. The OHRC worked with experts in reading development and reading disabilities to analyze significant information obtained from a representative sample of 8 English language public school boards, all 13 Ontario English language public faculties of education, and the Ministry of Education. The inquiry also heard from thousands of students, parents, organizations, educators, and other professionals through surveys, public hearings, a community meeting, engagements with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities, artwork, emails, submissions, meetings, and telephone calls. Almost 10 years after the Moore decision, the Ontario Human Rights Commission released a report on its public inquiry into the right to read. The right to read applies to all students, not just students with reading disabilities. This inquiry found that Ontario is not fulfilling its obligations to meet students' right to read. The report includes 157 recommendations to the Ministry of Education, to school boards, and to faculties of education on how to address systemic issues that affect the right to learn to read. The report covers 6 main areas. Curriculum and instruction. Key recommendations here include that the Ministry of Education work with external experts to revise Ontario's kindergarten program, the language curriculum, and related instructional guides to remove the use of cueing systems for word reading. All curriculum would require mandatory, explicit, systematic, and direct instruction in foundational word reading skills. In the early mandatory screening category, the OHRC recommends the Ministry of Education work with its external experts to mandate and standardize evidence-based screening on foundational skills, focusing on word reading accuracy and fluency. The ministry should require boards to screen every student twice a year from kindergarten to grade 2 with valid and reliable screening tools, and provide boards with stable and enveloped yearly funding for screening. Under effective accommodations, it is stated that accommodations should never be a substitute for timely reading remediation. Key recommendations center around making access to accommodations easier and more consistent for students who need them, and more transparency and communication with parents about accommodations. Under reading interventions, Ontario needs to decrease the need for reading interventions by using explicit, systematic instruction in foundational words reading skills in the classroom, while simultaneously increasing access to proven interventions beginning in the early grades. The province should work with external experts to select appropriate interventions that school boards must choose from. School boards should immediately stop using interventions that do not include systematic, explicit instruction in phonemic awareness and phonics. Under professional assessments, the recommendations under this category focus on transparency, consistency, and access to professional assessments for any student who needs one. And finally, in its inquiry, the OHRC found many systemic issues and provided recommendations on topics related to equity of access to both evidence-based instruction and materials, as well as funding, consistency in data collection and reporting, as well as transparency of communication. The Ministry of Education has been and continues to be very receptive and responsive to the OHRC's right to read. On March 11th, less than 2 weeks after the report was released, the ministry released an official response. The government committed to taking immediate action on many of the recommendations, including revising the elementary language curriculum and the grade 9 English course with scientific, evidence-based approaches that emphasize direct, explicit, and systematic instruction, and removing references to unscientific, discovery, and inquiry-based learning, including the 3 cueing system, by 2023. Soon after, the Ministry of Education released a document entitled Effective Early Reading Instruction, a Guide for Teachers, with information on foundational reading skills and instructional strategies. This guide can be found online by following the links in the accompanying slide deck. The guide is available to read online or for download as a PDF document. On June 24th of 2023, the much-anticipated revised language curriculum was released. This current curriculum organizes knowledge and skills into 4 distinct but related strands. Strand A, Literacy Connection and Applications. Strand B, Foundations of Language. Strand C, Comprehension, Understanding and Responding to Texts. And Strand D, Composition, Expressing Ideas and Creating Texts. Again, following the links on the slide will take you to the online version of the new curriculum. It all starts with the curriculum. In Ontario, the provincial curriculum guides all decisions around instruction. Universities train teachers in instructional methods that align with the curriculum, so when the curriculum supports an ineffective approach, this is what teachers learn in Teachers College. When the curriculum supports explicit and systematic evidence-based instruction, that is what teachers will learn in Teachers College. This in turn drives classroom instruction and choice of classroom resources. Assessment is designed to measure curriculum expectations. So when curriculum expectations are vague, so are the assessments, rendering results less meaningful, making it difficult to accurately understand how a child is doing with foundational skills. This has a downstream effect on intervention in terms of who is identified, when they are identified, and who gets intervention. The curriculum also influences the effectiveness of intervention. With a shift towards a curriculum that is explicit and systematic and evidence-based, existing Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions that have always been based in research become more effective because student learning is reinforced in their instruction in the different tiers. When the curriculum is changed to reflect an evidence-based approach, everything else will follow: teacher training, instruction, classroom resources, assessment, and intervention. Thank you for participating in Lesson 1.